TMs have always been a staple of the Pokemon series. They expand Pokemon's movesets far beyond what they can learn by leveling up. Some of them are universal TMs, meaning nearly every Pokemon can learn them. What's up, fellas? My name is Matt, and today Elias and I are going to look at some of these moves. Alright, let's get started.
What's up? I'm Elias, and Return was introduced in Gen 2. It's 100% accurate, and its power depends on the user's friendship value. At 0 friendship, like the value between me and Matt, the move is 1 power, which conditionally makes it one of the weakest moves in the game, although it's tied with a couple of others. We'll be talking about one of them a little later. As your Pokemon starts to like you more, Return gets stronger, maxing out at 102 power.
I object to the statement that our friendship is 0.
It's gotten so high that it looped around and it's at 0 again. We broke the friendship meter, guys.
Physical attacking normal types have quite a few stab options, but Return is pretty much always a solid choice. Your other options include Double Edge and Body Slam, and Return serves as a nice middle ground between them. Body Slam is slightly weaker than Return, and it can paralyze the target. On the other end of the spectrum, Double Edge is slightly stronger than Return, but it deals recoil damage to the user.
Unfortunately, Return was removed from the game in Sword and Shield, and it hasn't been available since. That meant many normal types had to pick a new stab move to rely on. For the most part, Body Slam became the default choice. Unless you're Stoutland. For reasons we can't begin to explain, Stoutland can't learn Body Slam or Double Edge, so in Gen 8 I had to start using weaker options like Strength and Facade. Facade, if you will.
Speaking of which, Facade is another universal TM. This move is good, don't get us wrong, but to make it truly worthwhile, you have to pair it with the right ability. It's a 70 base power move, but it doubles to 140 if the user is poisoned, burnt, or paralyzed. It also ignores Burn's damage reduction starting in Gen 6. So this move is good if you have a status, but until then it's pretty underwhelming. 70 power just isn't that strong, so in many cases, you're best off picking a different normal type move.
But if your Pokemon has the ability Guts, Facade is a fantastic move to teach them. This ability makes all your physical attacks 50% stronger if you have a non-volatile status. Thanks to the held item Flame Orb, you can also reliably give yourself a status. This item burns the holder at the end of each turn, which activates Guts and powers up Facade. With all these boosts in place, Facade is effectively 210 power.
Starting in Gen 7, burnt Pokemon take 1/16 of their max health and damage each turn, down from 1/8 in Gens 2 through 6. That means that when you attack, the Flame Orb actually deals less damage to the holder than the Life Orb. There is one small caveat though. Fire types can't be burned, and there's one fire type with Guts. In order to run a Facade set, Flareon has to hold a Toxic Orb instead. That's less than ideal, because the Toxic Orb badly poisons the holder. Bad poison deals more damage each turn, which means that over time, Flareon takes way more damage from its item than any other Guts user. In any case, Facade has been universal ever since Gen 3, and it's a staple of any Guts user's moveset.
Zangoose's ability Toxic Boost also pairs perfectly with Facade. It works the same way as Guts, but you have to specifically be poisoned. By holding a Toxic Orb, all of Zangoose's physical moves are boosted by 50%, and Facade's power is doubled on top of that. Zangoose is also a normal type, so it gets Stab as well. With all these boosts in place, Facade is effectively 1 zillion Avogadro's number, 315 power.
This next move is almost completely useless in playthroughs, but is very solid competitively. Frustration is essentially Return in reverse. The lower your Pokemon's friendship is, the stronger Frustration gets. This move also maxes out at 102 power, as long as your friendship value is 0. In a playthrough, Frustration becomes absolutely useless after a while, because raising your friendship is really easy.
There's about 1 million ways to max out friendship. If you go out of your way, you can do it with massages, haircuts, vitamins, and a small selection of berries. But simply playing the game will raise your Pokemon's friendship as well. The stat also goes up each time you level up your Pokemon, beat a major boss battle like a gym leader, or make it learn a TM. Yep, that's right, the act of teaching your Pokemon Frustration actively makes Frustration weaker.
Incidentally, this is also exactly how I became friends with Elias, with, a mix of massages, haircuts, vitamins, and his favorite berries.
That's not true.
It's not, but wait, there's more, and it's worse. Your Pokemon's friendship stat goes up whenever you walk around. That means Frustration is passively getting weaker with every new route you visit. By the end of the game, it's entirely possible that your friendship will be maxed out, and Frustration will have 1 base power, so it seems like just a worse version of Return. And I mean, it is. Well, in this context at least.
In competitive play, Frustration and Return are almost identical moves. You can set your Pokemon's friendship to 255 and use Return, or set it to 0 and use Frustration. Either one works perfectly well, but thanks in part to how battle simulators work, Frustration and Return create a pretty unusual guessing game. In Pokemon Showdown's Team Builder, each Pokemon's friendship is set to 255 by default, which incentivizes players to use Return. But if you set your friendship to 0 manually and use Frustration instead, that can turn into an advantage against Ditto. When it transforms transforms into a Pokemon that knows Frustration or Return, the move's power is based on Ditto's friendship stat, not the Pokemon it transformed into. Chances are Ditto's friendship is maxed out, which would make the Blob's Frustration 1 power, basically a dead move slot. So by choosing Frustration as your normal stab, you can potentially screw over your opponent's Ditto. How common is Ditto in competitive play?
Not very. Usually the way it goes
Okay, I'm bored. Next.
Of course, Ditto has counterplay against Frustration as well. If its friendship is set to 0 in the team builder, the tables turn entirely. Frustration's power is maxed out, but Return is unusably weak. So that's where the guessing game comes in. People using normal type moves are choosing between Frustration and Return, and people using Ditto are choosing between 0 and max friendship. It's effectively a coin flip, whether Ditto gets a usable normal type move, or if you're copying a Mega Salamence with Aerolate, a usable flying type move.
In low-level play, Frustration is the better move because your opponent probably isn't expecting it. But at higher levels, Return and Frustration are about equally good because better players are more aware of this sort of stuff. People will constantly be flipping Ditto's friendship, and they'll constantly be flipping their normal type move. Ditto has a 50-50 shot of having the right friendship value. The same way Return doesn't exist anymore, Frustration was also removed from the game in Gen 8.
Your dad's a writer and you can't tell between a period and a comma?
They do look quite similar.
This next move is a staple of VGC, as well as the Hoenn Elite Four for some reason. When you use Protect, you block nearly anything that targets you for the rest of the turn. It's a +4 priority move, which means Protect users will move before any attacks have the chance to come out. Virtually every doubles team has multiple Protect users, and there's a ton of reasons for that.
If your Pokemon knows Protect, nearly every turn is a guessing game while they're on the field. If your opponent attacks you but you Protect, the Pokemon that tried to hit you essentially wastes a turn. If your opponent decides to double target a Protect user with both of their Pokemon, that can be an absolutely catastrophic turn for them. If you correctly predict what your opponent is going to do, Protect can often thwart their plans. You can also use the move to stall for a turn and wait for stuff like Trick Room, Tailwind, and Weather to run out. Protect has about a zillion more uses in VGC, but we got a lot to cover today, so let's move forward.
You should include the word thwart 3 times in your novel. Everybody say hello to Xavier.
Don't reveal my secret identity.
Protect isn't as common in singles, but it does have its use cases. One way to use it is in combination with Speed Boost, an ability that activates at the end of each turn and, well, boosts your speed by 1 stage. By using Protect, you can raise your speed while your opponent can't hit you. Pokemon like Espather and Sharpedo appreciate this combo, although they use it in different ways. In fact, the ability is so valuable, Sharpedo would often wait a turn before Mega Evolving in Gen 6 and 7. It would use Protect on turn 1 to wait for Speed Boost to activate, then Mega Evolve and use Strong Jaw for the rest of the battle. Espather can pair Speed Boost with Calm Mind, which also boosts its stats. That makes Stored Power an incredibly deadly move, because its power is based on how many stat boosts you have. That led to Espather getting banned in Gen 9 singles.
Of course, Protect isn't an automatic you lose your turn button. Each time you use Protect in a row, the move gets more likely to fail. In Gens 2 through 5, the odds of successfully using Protect are cut in half with each consecutive use. And starting in Gen 6, the odds are divided by 3 each time. You also can't get around this limitation by using other protection moves. So you can't just alternate Protect and Detect forever and ever and ever and just win the battle. The failure check carries over across the other protection moves as well. So if you use Protect on turn 1, Detect will also probably fail on turn 2. That goes for the other protection moves too, like Spiky Shield, King's Shield, and Baneful Bunker. There are also ways to bypass protection entirely, Cough or Shifu Cough. I think I need a cough drop. I'm coughing a lot here.
I don't have any.
I have a bunch.
Alright, you do that. Next up, one of the weirder universal TMs. Toxic is a 90% accurate move, and it badly poisons the target. A Pokemon with normal poison takes a set amount of damage each turn, 1/8 of their max HP. But if you're badly poisoned, you take more and more damage every round. So in the long run, Toxic Poison does more damage than regular poison. Starting in Gen 6, Toxic won't miss if a Poison-type Pokemon uses it. That makes Pokemon like Toxapex even more of an asset than they already are.
Toxic is a good move because it puts a timer on your opponent. If they stay on the field for 4 or 5 turns, they'll be taking a metric ton of poison damage and eventually get knocked out. You can also pair Toxic with partial trapping moves, which have 2 functions. First, they keep the target on the field, forcing them to take a ton of toxic damage. But the partial trapping moves also deal residual damage, so the target will be hemorrhaging HP from every orifice until they perish. That makes Magma Storm and Toxic a deadly combo for Heatran to use before Gen 8.
5 easy steps to change your eye color. Number 1, become a powerlifter.
Yeah.
Toxic does have its applications, but, why is it a universal move? Most Pokemon have nothing to do with poison, so the fact that they can badly poison you is pretty weird. As far as inflicting statuses on your opponents goes, bad poison is the only condition with the universal TM, and it's the one that deals the most damage as well. Sure, it makes sense that poison types can learn it, as well as poison adjacent Pokemon like Goodra, Seadra, and any number of grass types. But why can an ice cream cone, a volcano camel, and literal infants poison you? Oh well. Toxic lost universal TM status in Gen 8, which makes perfect sense if you ask us.
This next move is universal in Gen 1 only. Double Edge is a normal type move that does recoil damage. You have to put it back, you know. Double Edge is a normal type move that deals recoil damage. It's not the greatest move in this game though. It's 100 power in RBY compared to 120 power in Gen 2 onwards. That's not really what you want, because there are moves that are equally powerful but have no drawback. And by that, we just mean Earthquake really. Double Edge isn't the worst move in the universe, but there are usually better options.
The normal type moves of choice are usually Body Slam, which is more reliable and has a paralysis chance, and Hyper Beam, which is way stronger. In this generation, you also don't have to recharge if Hyper Beam KOs an opposing Pokemon, which makes it a way better move in Gen 1 compared to nowadays. Snorlax's Self-Destruct also hits like a truck, but you know, the move makes it faint. Double Edge is a viable alternative in some cases, because sometimes the damage calculations are more favorable, but usually you'll want to stick to the other standard choices. There are a few fully evolved Pokemon that can't learn Double Edge in Gen 1 though, namely Muck, Weezing, Electrode, and Onix, because who knows why. Electro doesn't have edges, but don't worry about it.
It doesn't need edges to use Double Edge. That's not the point of Double Edge.
I'm making a joke, Elias. Were you about to fire me?
I was about to fire you. Bide was also universal in Gen 1, and this move is straight up bad. The user sits around for 2 to 3 turns, just absorbing damage. Then, they'll deal damage equal to twice the HP they lost from attacks while biding. There's just one teeny weeny massive colossal problem. You can't attack while Bide is active. You're just a sitting duck while your opponent pounds you. 3 turns can be quite a long time, so there's a good chance your opponent will just knock you out before Bide finishes. In that case, you essentially wasted your time.
Hold on. I genuinely need to reload my browser. I tried to make the script 435 point font and it didn't work.
I wonder why.
Bide isn't completely useless though, because of the TM Brock gives you for beating him. He's the first gym leader in the game, so many Pokemon won't have a lot of attacks at this point. Sometimes, solo runners will teach their Pokemon Bide for the short term, to ensure they have enough power points for the upcoming routes. It's not a good move, but it does have some use cases. For more videos like this, subscribe to MEPlaysGames, and consider becoming a channel member for as little as 99 cents a month. You'll gain access to exclusive Let's Plays, and you'll also get to watch these regular videos early. Shoutouts to our existing member, Shard the Duraludon, for the super thanks on our last video.
Rest is the only TM that's universal in every single game in the series. The user puts itself to sleep for 2 turns, and heals all the way back to full. That's pretty nice for some Pokemon, especially if you pair it with another universal TM. Sleep Talk will always fail if the user is awake, but if they're asleep, it'll call a random move they know. So even though you're unconscious, you're still able to attack. Not bad. This combo was at its best in Gen 2, because if Sleep Talk calls rest, you'll heal back to full health, and your sleep counter resets. So whichever move you get from Sleep Talk, you're probably going to do something productive. Go ahead.
Elias deleted the entire script, and I do not appreciate that. I am going to beat you to death. But starting in Gen 3, rest will always fail if it's called by Sleep Talk. That means if you're running a Rest Talk set, you have a 1 in 3 chance of just wasting your turn while you're asleep. So these moves aren't as common as they used to be. Some Pokemon will use Rest without Sleep Talk though, thanks to the held item Chesto Berry. It immediately wakes you up when you fall asleep, which allows you to attack the very next turn without playing Sleep Talk Roulette.
Pokemon can learn up to 4 moves at a time, and usually you're best off using all 4 move slots. But there are some niche movesets that use fewer than 4 moves, and Sleep Talk is the staple of many of them. You can do this if you only have 1 move you want to click. By just teaching your Pokemon Sleep Talk and that 1 move, you can either use that attack normally or call it via Sleep Talk if you get hit by a sleep move when you switch in.
That's a pretty oversimplified version of how these movesets work, so here are a couple videos to go into more detail. Check this one out for info about 2 and 3 move Xerneas and Crobat sets, and check out my own video about Komala, who can always use Sleep Talk thanks to its ability Comatose. Links in the description.
Here's another way to attack while sleeping. Snore is the universal TM in Gen 2, as well as Sword and Shield. When it was introduced, it was a 40 base power normal type move, but it only works if the user is snoozing. Considering you can just use Sleep Talk to call moves that are a million times stronger, Snore is borderline useless. It was buffed to 50 power in Gen 6, but still an atrocious attack.
Here's a fun fact before we move on though. Combee was incompatible with TMs until Gen 8, although it did have access to a few tutor moves. Elias, I swear to God!
What?
What do you mean, what?
Well, you're really struggling to get through this paragraph, dude. It's pretty short.
You're pretty short. That is a lie.
I would disagree with that statement.
In Sword and Shield, it gained access to 1 TM in the form of Snore. That's even more useless than normal, because Combi can't learn rest. It can't put itself to sleep, so Snore is an incredibly unreliable move for Combi in particular.
Next up, a couple of moves that are based on Pokemon's genders. Attract is universal in Gens 2 through 8, and it infatuates the target, but only if the user is the opposite gender. No gay marriage in Pokemon. Each round you're infatuated, you have a 50-50 chance of being immobilized and losing your turn.
Pokemon are canonically straight, you know, like Elias is. A handful of gym leaders are well known for using this move. Whitney's Miltank knows Attract, and so does Flannery's Torkoal in Gen 3. Both of these Pokemon are female, so their attracts will only work on male Pokemon. But starter Pokemon have a 7 in 8 chance to be male, so they're most likely in trouble during these battles.
Captivate is only universal in Gen 4. This move lowers the target's special attack by 2 stages, but once again it only works if the user and target are opposite genders. In-game, the move is described as the target being charmed into getting weaker. There's another similar move called, well, Charm, which lowers attack by 2 stages instead of special attack. But Charm works regardless of gender, unlike Captivate for some reason. Well, I think Charm can also refer to the idea of like cuteness, right? Like if like a very cute cat is like on the ground, it's charming.
Gender-based mechanics just aren't very good in Pokemon. There's roughly a 50% chance they even work on any given opponent. In the vast majority of cases, gender doesn't make a difference in gameplay, so players aren't going out of their way to pick one over the other. They'll usually just use whatever gender Pokemon the game decides to give them. If you're playing against a human, you won't know what genders their Pokemon have till the battle is about to start, so there's just no way to make these moves any semblance of reliable.
If these moves are used against a genderless Pokemon, such as Klinklang or Starmie, they'll always fail. That makes them especially awful in formats with legendaries because most of them don't have a known gender. Attract and Captivate also fail if they're used by a genderless Pokemon. Yeah, Cryogonal can learn Attract for some reason. Not sure what that's about.
Of course, it's worth noting that no TM is 100% universal. There are some Pokemon with extremely limited move pools, and they're incompatible with most, if not all, of these moves. Most of these Pokemon are the usual suspects: Early Root Bugs, Magikarp, Cosmog, and so on and so on. There are other exceptions, like Regigigas not learning Protect or Rest until Gen 8.
What's up? I'm Matt.
No, you're not.
Instead of MEPlaysGames, it's going to be iPlayGames, and the I stands for
individual.
Individual. There you go.
See, we're such good friends, we're even finishing each other's
words.
Anyway.
Okay, go ahead.
I know a guy named Corey Anatado. We always make fun of his name, like we'll call him like Avocado, Avogadro. Anatado's number is 11,200, because that was his score on Jeopardy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he lost to Amy Schneider.
Oh, well, you can't blame him for that one.
Yeah, you really can't. Try not to puke your organs out.
Too late.
Oh, what organs are you missing, Elias?
My stomach.
You want mine?
I think you need it.
Welp, that's all we got for today. We only went over about half of the Universal TMs, so leave a comment if you'd like to see another video about the other half. Thank you to our channel members for supporting the show: Akruda, Starkid Phil, Elias, Long Story, Lord Matthew, Summon Sloth, Skintist, Victor Manzo, Saphira, Shard the Ralladon, Kai the Memer, Gavin Eric, Patrick Chapman, and Kits Day. If you've been enjoying the show so far, consider adding your own support as well, so we can keep it going. We'll see you all next time. Good night, fellas. Sleep well.